Amidst a grand ballroom, a blonde nobleman asks for a moment of the princess's time. Princess Latia stands beside her father, looking down with a sense of quiet, inward realization. Latia requests brevity while the suitor explains he brought a specialty gift of famous tea. The wooden chest contains a set of floral teacups and a teapot adorned with ribbons. The princess dismisses the suitor's offering, indifferently promising to sample the gifted tea much later. The nobleman blushes intensely as he suggests they should enjoy the gifted tea set together. Latia rejects the suggestion, coldly noting that tea is only a drink for common women. She snaps her fan open, preparing to deliver a harsh truth to the persistent suitor. Latia intensely declares her absolute hatred for tea and demands the man remove the gift. The formal introduction confirms the identity of the blonde royal as Princess Latia Helsa. Socialites gossip about the princess's cold behavior and her refusal to accept any male escorts. She departs the social gathering while arm in arm with her father, ignoring the whispers behind her. Her unwavering coldness earns her the chilling reputation of being the kingdom's ice queen. Narration highlights her total lack of friendliness and her history of never having a boyfriend. Her piercing purple eyes reflect a profound sense of detachment from the world around her. The princess walks with purposeful steps, further distancing herself from the crowded social circle. A rare public smile from Latia shocks the social circle and creates a massive stir. A steaming cup of dark, aromatic coffee sits ready, a secret pleasure in her life. In a secluded garden gazebo, the royal family gathers for a private and quiet afternoon. The king offers to escort Latia again while questioning the beverage preferences of typical men. Latia agrees that his escort is best while savoring her dark drink in a quiet moment. The queen sighs about her daughter's marriage prospects, noting the difficulty of finding a partner. The focus shifts to the dark coffee as the topic of finding a husband continues. The queen emphasizes that any suitor must be willing to accept Latia's strange personal habits. Latia ignores the pressure of marriage by taking a deep, satisfying drink of her coffee. She holds her cup with both hands, finding comfort in the warmth of the dark beverage. The princess glows with genuine happiness as she reflects on her true name and identity. Latia recalls her previous life where she worked in a cafe and aspired to be a barista. She remembers her former cafe master, a man known for his extreme and stubborn personality. Her memories show her practicing on the espresso machine during her rare moments of solitude. She recalls traveling to coffee plantations to fulfill her dream of owning her own cafe. Chaos erupts in the airplane cabin as flight attendants issue a final warning before impact. The protagonist's previous life reaches a sudden, fiery end following a tragic plane crash. The scene shifts back 8 years to show a 10-year-old Latia in the Helsa Kingdom. The young princess peeks over the table, curious about the dark drink her father enjoys. Her father explains that coffee is for adult men, but offers her a small taste. Trying the coffee triggers a flood of memories from her previous life as a barista. Young Latia is overcome with joy upon rediscovering the taste of her favorite beverage. Her reflection in the coffee confirms that her previous life's passion remains completely unchanged. She remembers her shock at learning that women drinking coffee is considered scandalous in this world. Her father laughs while noting that only her family and servants know her secret habit. Latia maintains her royal dignity in public, carefully hiding her forbidden love for dark coffee. Society's rigid expectations prevent her from ever revealing her true drinking preferences to the public. She contemplates the possibility of making coffee popular for women while enjoying her secret cup. A sudden shout from a visitor startles Latia during her private moment in the garden. She quickly hides her coffee cup as an uninvited guest discovers her secluded garden spot. A man approaches and formally requests the honor of being Latia's escort for the day. Dmitry Soldov, a high-ranking marquis and potential suitor, begs for another chance with the princess. The king looks on with a sweat beat, noticing the arrival of the persistent marquis. The brown-haired man tastes the brew, noting it is unlike any coffee he has ever experienced. Latia looks relieved and pleased to see her husband's positive reaction to her skilled brewing. Lucas inquires about the origin of the beans while continuing to enjoy the rich, unique flavor. Latia explains the beans came from Bart's farm, sitting together on the sofa to talk business. Lucas reflects on the quality of the local harvest while taking another sip of his drink. Latia leans forward with sudden energy, surprising her husband with her intense enthusiasm for future experiments. The blonde-haired woman excitedly lists more brewing techniques to try while Lucas attempts to calm her. Lucas laughs at Latia's vibrant personality, clearly finding her overwhelming passion for coffee to be endearing. Latia catches herself, her expression shifting as she realizes she may have acted too unrefined. The woman apologizes for her unroyal-like behavior, but Lucas quickly reassures her with a warm smile. Lucas tells Latia her authentic personality is charming, admitting he loves seeing her act so freely. The brown-haired man gazes at his wife with deep affection, his eyes reflecting his growing attachments. Surrounded by flowers, Lucas holds his cup close, savoring the moment of peace with his wife. Latia blushes intensely at her husband's kind words, her heart racing from his sincere public praise. The couple shares a quiet moment together, drinking coffee while enjoying the warmth of their home. A tray of sweet treats sits on the marble table alongside their refined porcelain coffee cups. Latia looks toward Lucas, preparing to share a new business idea she has been carefully considering. Lucas listens attentively to his wife, curious about the sudden shift in her tone and focus. A hazy transition highlights the weight of the proposal the blonde-haired woman is about to make. Latia stands up and announces her plan to host a coffee tea party for noble ladies. Lucas questions the feasibility of the idea, worried that noble women will find the drink too bitter. A small illustration depicts a woman rejecting coffee, highlighting the general distaste for bitter beverages. Latia counters by suggesting they create a version of coffee that is specifically tailored to be sweet. Lucas is visibly taken aback by the suggestion, his expression reflecting total shock at the concept. Latia insists her idea is sound, claiming she has already proven the recipe's success through testing. The brown-haired maid looks on with a nervous expression, recalling her recent role as a test subject. 2 tall glasses of chilled iced coffee wait on a tray, representing Latia's innovative new recipe. The maid hesitates to try the drink, expressing doubt that coffee can ever be truly palatable. Latia pleads with her servant to trust her, urging her to give the special brew a chance. The maid suggests that Lucas should be the tester instead, clearly fearful of the drink's bitterness. Latia explains she needs a woman's perspective to ensure the drink appeals to the target market. The maid finally gives in to Latia's persistent begging, reluctantly taking a glass to taste. A close-up captures the maid's eye widening in surprise as she experiences the drink's unexpected flavor. Surrounded by a floral aura, the maid looks transformed by the delicious and refreshing iced beverage. Latia explains that brewing methods dictate flavor, showing various styles to prove coffee can be versatile. Lucas considers the successful test, realizing that his wife's bold plan might actually revolutionize the industry. Narration warns that such a move is unprecedented while showing the skeptical social circles they must face. Latia remains determined, hoping that the noble women will eventually see the true charm of the beverage. The blonde-haired woman declares the start of a coffee boom, standing amidst flourishing plants and beans. The day of the tea party arrives with noble ladies gathered in a garden discussing fashion. A noblewoman brags about her husband's gifts, while the others admire her expensive, glittering new jewelry. The conversation shifts to a mysterious new tea everyone is talking about, heightening the guests' collective curiosity. Another guest confirms she heard the rumors, expressing her eagerness to finally taste the special drink. Helen Marshall looks forward to the tasting, expecting a high-quality experience based on the royal invitation. Latia watches her guests from a distance, recognizing them as the key influencers of the current era. A close-up of the blonde-haired woman's confident smile shows her readiness to launch her grand plan. Latia welcomes her guests warmly, silently viewing them as powerful allies in her mission to spread coffee. The ladies enjoy the garden setting, noting that the beautiful weather is perfect for an outdoor party. A guest complains about the heat and asks for water, giving Latia the perfect opening to start. Latia offers a special treat instead of water, preparing to introduce her signature iced coffee to society. Helen Marshall asks if Latia is referring to the special drink she previously mentioned. Latia tells Bridget to bring the drink out while smiling at her curious guests. The maid pushes out a cart carrying a large and elaborate glass brewing apparatus. Latia presents the day's special drink as the intricate cold brew system stands before them. The guests murmur in surprise at the sight of the strange and impressive device. Latia stands confidently beside the tall brewing tower, ready to explain its unique purpose. The guests are confused by the mention of coffee, wondering what she has planned. Helen notes that coffee is typically a gentleman's drink, expressing her visible surprise. Latia claims she wanted to know her land's specialties, though internally she knows better. Surrounded by roses, the blonde-haired woman appears completely enchanted by the prospect of drinking. The noblewomen whisper among themselves, appearing quite hesitant about the unconventional beverage choice. Latia asks if they have tried it. They admit they haven't and doubt its palatability. Latia firmly disagrees while holding a pitcher filled with a dark and mysterious liquid. The blonde-haired woman declares that she has prepared a special coffee that isn't bitter. Glowing with confidence, Latia stands amidst coffee plants while holding the pitcher of brew. Narration explains that Dutch coffee is another name for cold drip coffee or cold brew. Text describes how the slow extraction process reduces bitterness while enhancing the drink's natural sweetness. Narration notes the difference from chilled hot coffee as Latia recalls her past life. A memory shows Latia's past self peacefully watching coffee drip during her previous life. Helen is amazed by the extravagant care required, while a delighted Latia thanks her. Latia startles Helen by suddenly grasping her hands in a display of intense shared excitement. Latia presents the pre-extracted coffee while her maid brings out a tray of glasses. A gloved hand lifts a glass filled with dark liquid and several clear ice cubes. The maid serves the iced beverages to the guests, who watch with extreme trepidation. Latia explains that a refreshing cup of Dutch coffee is perfect for such a hot day. The noblewomen stare down at the unfamiliar drinks, their expressions filled with deep uncertainty. Latia observes the ladies' strong resistance to the drink, acknowledging the social stigma they face. Thought bubbles emphasize Latia's determination not to get discouraged as the marchioness of the estate. Latia announces she will have some first, attempting to set a relaxed example for others. A close-up shows Latia's hand reaching for a glass as the maids stand ready. Bright sunlight shines down as the blonde-haired woman prepares to take her first sip. The condensation-covered glass of cold brew is held up against the clear blue morning sky. Helen Marshall watches with bated breath as Latia brings the glass to her lips. Latia takes a drink while her guests watch intently to see her reaction to it. The guests exchange worried looks as they wait for their hostess to finish her sip. Surrounded by flowers, Latia glows with refreshment after drinking the cool and delicious beverage. Latia tells a surprised Helen that nothing beats a cold cup of coffee today. With a bright smile, Latia enthusiastically invites the noble ladies to enjoy the special drink. The guests look at their glasses with a mix of fear and growing curiosity. Helen Marshall stares at the beverage, her face reflecting a look of pure astonishment. The noblewoman lifts her glass of iced coffee, finally deciding to give the brew a try. Helen takes a sip while Latia watches her closely, her expression full of nervous anticipation. Latia asks Helen for her opinion, hoping that her innovation will be well received by society. Helen Marshall pauses, looking thoughtful and surprised after tasting the cold drip coffee. Latia's face is filled with worry as she wonders if her guests dislike the drink. Helen Marshall exclaims in surprise, her reaction leaving the others in suspense about the taste. Latia's heart sinks as she begins to believe her coffee was not good enough. Helen beams with joy and declares the drink delicious while surrounded by a floral aura. The blonde-haired woman is completely shocked by Helen's enthusiastic and positive reaction to the brew. Helen describes the clean, rich body and sweet hint, amazed that the drink is coffee. Helen Marshall asks how coffee can be so sweet and questions the possibility of the flavor. The noblewoman is amazed that the beverage lacks the typical bitterness she expected from coffee. While other guests remain hesitant, Helen declares this specific coffee is absolutely delicious. Latia glows with pride, her face lighting up with joy at the successful reception. The blonde-haired woman is thrilled as she realizes her guests actually enjoyed the drink. Chibi Latia pinches her cheek to confirm she isn't dreaming about this social victory. Latia tells her maid Bridget that the party is far from over despite the success. Latia encourages her guests to choose between the special coffee and traditional tea. A guest feels relieved to see tea is also available for those less adventurous. The ladies begin to relax and enjoy the snacks, signaling a successful gathering. Countess Helen Marshall raises her hand to ask the hostess a pressing question. Latia happily acknowledges Helen, eager to hear what the influential noblewoman wants to know. Narration identifies Helen Marshall as a prominent countess and the wife of Count Marshall. Helen is described as a famous connoisseur of fine food and drink in high society. Latia leans toward Helen, expressing her willingness to answer any questions about the drink. Helen asks if the coffee beans are a rare variety from outside their kingdom. Latia clarifies that the beans are ordinary and comparable to common tea leaves. She reveals that the coffee beans were harvested directly from her own local domain. The guests are visibly stunned to learn the high-quality drink came from local land. Helen apologizes for her assumption, feeling embarrassed about questioning the origin of the beans. Latia reassures her, insisting that local or cheap products aren't inherently of poor quality. The blonde-haired woman looks serene as she prepares to explain more about her passion. Latia notes that any bean can produce a great cup if handled with care. She explains that the true beauty of coffee lies in how different brewing methods change flavor. Helen watches the marchioness with a newfound look of respect and deep curiosity. The noblewoman focuses on her glass of iced coffee, contemplating the unique flavor profile. As the party concludes at sunset, Latia reflects on the success of her coffee introduction. The mood shifts as Helen approaches Latia privately with a very serious expression. Helen whispers to Latia, pleading with her to keep their coffee consumption a secret. Latia realizes that conservative social norms still make coffee a taboo for noblewomen. Helen Marshall hesitates before asking Latia for one final and personal favor. Latia looks slightly disappointed, fearing Helen wants to distance herself from the beverage.
Latia's expression shifts to surprise as the favor turns out to be unexpected.
Helen asks if Latia brewed the coffee herself because she couldn't stop thinking about it. Latia admits to brewing it herself, calling her deep passion for it an odd hobby. Helen relates to the sentiment, noting that passion naturally leads to a desire to create. The Countess reveals she loves making sweets and admires Latia's dedication to her craft. A pink background reflects Latia's immense happiness at being understood by another woman. Latia beams with pure joy, her heart full after receiving Helen's sincere validation. Helen agrees to try more, appearing delighted to continue their private coffee session. The The noblewoman takes a sip of hot coffee, looking thoughtful as she tastes it.
Latia explains that specific temperatures and timing are key to avoiding any bitter taste.
Latia suggests adding enhancements to the brew to make the experience more enjoyable.
A gold tray featuring a pitcher of milk and sugar sits ready on the table.
Helen looks surprised by the presence of milk and sugar next to the coffee.
Helen worries the additions will ruin the flavor, but Latia prioritizes her guests' enjoyment. Latia laughs and explains that the most important thing is enjoying what you drink. She suggests starting with milk first to soften the brew's intensity before adding sugar. White milk is poured into the dark coffee, creating a swirling and creamy mixture. Helen holds the refined cup of café au lait, thanking Latia for the personalized treat. Helen Marshall takes a long, satisfied sip of the customized coffee Latia prepared. Helen Marshall's eyes widen in sheer amazement as the rich flavor of the brew hits her.
Helen Marshall praises the mellow texture and drinkability, declaring the customized coffee to be truly delicious.
Helen Marshall joyfully prepares to eat a sweet snack, thoroughly enjoying the refined tea party atmosphere.
Letitia suggests adding chocolate next, prompting Helen Marshall to marvel at such a delightfully sinful beverage.
Helen Marshall enthusiastically asks for advice on homebrewing, eager to recreate the experience herself. Latia's eyes well up with tears as she processes Helen Marshall's genuine interest and validation. Helen Marshall is startled by the tears, but Latia explains she is simply overwhelmed with happiness. Latia asks for confirmation, and Helen Marshall agrees while hinting at a condition for their friendship. Helen Marshall offers a radiant smile, clearly pleased to have found a kindred spirit in Latia. The two women share a laugh, both looking forward to their future coffee-filled collaborations together. Back at the mansion, Lucas and Latia celebrate the tea party's success over evening drinks.
Latia expresses her sincere gratitude to Lucas for allowing her to host the social event.
Lucas offers a warm smile, expressing his genuine satisfaction that everything went according to plan. A refreshing iced drink garnished with lime sits as a symbol of their recent victory.
Lucas tastes the new concoction and immediately compliments the flavor, further boosting Latia's confidence.
Latia shares her vision of making coffee a beverage that everyone can enjoy more casually. Lucas contemplates the social role of drinks, comparing the accessibility of coffee to traditional alcohol.
Sparked by Lucas's words, Latia resolves to expand coffee's appeal to commoners starting the next day.
Latia rushes away to begin planning, leaving a bewildered Lucas to bid her goodnight.
Lucas exhales a deep, weary sigh, feeling the weight of Latia's boundless and exhausting energy. Lucas wonders if he will ever be able to compete with coffee for Latia's attention. A montage of various characters appears, signaling a transition or a break in the narrative flow. The grand mansion stands tall under a starry sky as another long day comes to an end. Lucas reflects on his first 2 weeks of marriage, realizing his thoughts are constantly occupied. A mental montage shows Latia in various happy moments, illustrating how deeply Lucas cares for her. Lucas groans in frustration after his preoccupation leads to another error in his important paperwork. Lucas attempts to refocus on his duties, though his mind clearly remains on his wife. Lucas questions their living arrangements, wondering if he should have proposed sharing a single bedroom. Lucas imagines Latia sleeping peacefully, a thought that only serves to further distract him. Lucas snaps his pen in agitation, realizing that sharing a room would likely ruin his sleep. A sudden knock at the door interrupts Lucas's private and somewhat embarrassing internal monologue.
Lucas grants permission for his visitor to enter, quickly trying to regain his professional composure.
Celestin arrives with a tray of brandy, suggesting that Lucas should finally retire for the evening. Lucas accepts the offer with a polite nod, thanking his loyal servant for the thoughtful gesture. Lucas explains his hard work is for Latia, earning a comment on his dedication from Celestin. Lucas leans in to confide in Celestin, preparing to vent some of his marital frustrations. Lucas recounts a time when Latia left for the farm without him during his work.
Lucas expresses his jealousy over Latia spending hours discussing coffee with Bart instead of him.
Lucas laments missing quality time with Latia because he was busy with the sword training. Lucas realizes that Latia's primary focus seems to be her coffee rather than their relationship. Lucas looks downcast as he admits that his wife doesn't pay him any attention anymore. Lucas stands before Latia's door, noting that she has been leaving the estate every evening. Celestin questions Lucas' intentions, pointing out that visiting his wife's room at night is normal. Celestin warns of possible infidelity due to neglect, but Lucas firmly defends Latia's moral character. Celestin pours the brandy, agreeing with Lucas but remaining concerned about the couple's distance. Celestin brings up Latia's past reputation as a villainess, causing Lucas to react with visible alarm. Lucas immediately shouts in defense, dismissing the claim about Latia's past as a baseless rumor. Through the window, a carriage sits ready in the dark courtyard for an unknown mission.
Latia looks back mysteriously from under a dark hood, heading out into the night alone.
Celestin confirms the situation while Lucas watches from the doorway with a deeply troubled expression. Celestin mentions he has heard a particularly bothersome rumor circulating about the Marchioness lately. Lucas imagines Latia's rumored infidelity while Celestin explains her supposed nightly tavern crawls for men.
Lucas storms off as Celestin urgently calls after him to maintain his composure.
Celestin wonders if his provocations were too effective, feeling a slight sense of regret. The scene shifts to a bustling local pub where the owner, Marak, cleans glassware. Latia enters the tavern in her dark hood, greeting the owner with familiar warmth.
The blonde-haired woman places gold coins on the counter, ready to purchase her nightly beverage.
Marak acknowledges her request and begins preparing the coffee using a metal mocha pot. Latia offers a small, satisfied smile as she waits for her secret treat to brew.
Narration describes the aroma of coffee filling the shop where local laborers gather for drinks. A bright, sparkling transition emphasizes Latia's intense joy and anticipation for her special beverage. Latia glows with delight, exclaiming that the taste of the fresh coffee is completely irresistible. Narration notes the oddity of a pub serving both alcohol and coffee to working-class men. The hooded woman looks on with a blushing face, fully immersed in her secret hobby. Marak pours the dark, steaming coffee into a large wooden mug for his regular customer.
Text explains that Marak utilizes a mocha pot requiring a precise 4-minute extraction on heat. An illustration demonstrates how water and ground beans are placed inside the metal mocha pot. Further explanation mentions that some prefer diluting strong espresso with water for a milder taste.
Marak finishes serving the drink, his expression professional despite the unconventional nature of his guest.
A small, curious Latia wonders which specific method Marak used to achieve this rich flavor. Marak serves her the undiluted brew, prompting Latia to thank him for the strong coffee.
Latia's reflection appears in the surface of the coffee as steam rises from the mug.
The blonde-haired woman takes a deep, satisfying drink from the large, rustic wooden mug. Latia beams with happiness, complimenting the perfect size of the mug for a long session.
Latia deduces that a paper filter was used, while Marak expresses concern about her reputation.
Marak warns that a noblewoman visiting taverns late at night will surely start nasty rumors. Latia continues to smile mischievously as she listens to the shopkeeper's well-meaning advice. The blonde-haired woman jokingly accepts the label of a villainess as she leans on her hand. Marak is surprised by her casual awareness of the social stigma surrounding her nighttime habits. Latia recalls similar experiences in the kingdom of Helza, where she visited pubs just for coffee. Latia asks Marak to simply ignore the rumors so she can continue enjoying his shop.
Latia asserts her indifference toward public opinion, prioritizing her love for the drink above all.
Marak stares at her in stunned silence, clearly impressed by her unwavering and bold resolve. Marak admits he doesn't want any trouble, though he seems more relaxed with her now. Latia's face lights up with a radiant expression of pure excitement and joy.
Latia laughs cheerfully while Marak continues his work, acknowledging the beginning of a mutual understanding.
Chibi Latia slams the bar, clarifying that she isn't just visiting the tavern for amusement. Latia looks serious as she prepares to transition from customer to a strategic business partner.
Latia places her hand on the counter, inquiring if Marak knows any women interested in trends.
A promotional graphic for the series appears, featuring the blonde-haired woman holding a cup.
Latia focuses her attention on Marak, repeating her inquiry about local women who follow trends.
The blonde-haired woman taps the table while waiting for the shopkeeper's knowledge of social circles. Marak privately considers the oddity of the request, thinking that Latia is the ultimate oddball. Marak identifies the daughter of a local department store and her friend as prominent trend seekers. Latia beams with pure excitement, declaring her intense desire to visit the women Marak mentioned. Outside Woodland, Celestin informs a hooded Lucas that Latia has entered the suspicious building. A brief vision shows a man and woman enjoying a lively atmosphere inside a local tavern. Lucas looks on with deep concern, wondering why Latia would visit such a lowly establishment. Lucas grows increasingly anxious, imagining Latia is there for alcohol or a secret romantic meeting. Lucas stands outside the pub and coffee shop, noticing an unfamiliar scent in the air. The dark-haired man realizes the aroma is coffee while Celestin watches from behind him. Latia smiles as she remarks on the perception of women who visit such places at night.
Lucas watches through the window as his wife converses with the owner inside the establishment.
Lucas asks the hooded maid Bridget if Latia is currently inside the dangerous local tavern. Bridget reacts with a shout of surprise, wondering why her lord has appeared there tonight. Bridget admits she lacks the courage to go inside, while Lucas continues watching through the glass. Latia sits at the bar, quietly enjoying her drink amidst the boisterous tavern atmosphere. Bridget explains her reluctance to interrupt Latia's rare moment of happiness as Lucas agrees. A group of rowdy laborers enters the pub, demanding a round of cheap coffee from Marak. Latia looks down with a confused expression after hearing the men use a derogatory term. The men notice Latia and mockingly invite her to drink alcohol with them instead. The blonde-haired woman remains silent and stoic, ignoring the unwanted attention from the tavern patrons. Outside, Bridget expresses her growing fear for Letitia's safety to a concerned and tense Lucas. One of the men becomes enraged by Latia's indifference and demands that she stop ignoring him. Marak looks on in concern as the angry man reaches out to grab Latia's shoulder.
Latia's long blonde hair catches the light as she begins to turn toward her harasser.
A close-up reveals Latia's calm and unfazed expression as she looks back at the man.
Surrounded by flowers, Latia's beauty and poise appear out of place in the grimy tavern setting.
The laborer leans in close, brazenly asking the hooded woman to keep him company tonight. Latia rejects him, stating she has no interest in talking to someone who insults good coffee.
The man explodes in rage, slamming his hand down and spilling Latia's drink across the bar.
Latia scolds the man, telling him not to disrespect the owner's carefully brewed coffee with violence.
Latia braces herself, closing her eyes as she realizes the man is about to hit her.
A massive blur of motion fills the room as someone suddenly intervenes in the assault.
Lucas catches the man's arm mid-swing, shielding Latia, who looks up in total shock. Lucas demands to know what the man intended to do to his wife while restraining him.
The laborer stares in terror at the powerful and intimidating stranger who just stopped his attack.
Lucas stands firmly between Latia and the rowdy patrons, ordering them not to butt in. A close-up shows Lucas's hand tightening around the laborer's wrist in a display of strength. Lucas effortlessly slams the man onto the floor, ending the confrontation with a single decisive move. Marak and the other patrons watch in stunned silence as the dark-haired man overpowers the attacker. The man grovels on the floor in pain while Lucas looks down at him with contempt.
Lucas issues a final, terrifying warning to the man to never touch his wife again.
The tavern patrons recognize Lucas as the commander, realizing they have provoked a dangerous figure. A dark silhouette of Lucas against a red background emphasizes the threat he poses to enemies.
The laborer looks completely broken and terrified as the weight of Lucas's presence overwhelms him.
Lucas turns his attention back to Latia, his expression remaining serious after the intense fight. Latia thanks Lucas for his timely rescue, marveling at his incredible and unexpected physical strength. A close-up focusing on Lucas's mouth shows him beginning to address his wife's reckless behavior. Lucas scolds Latia for visiting such a place alone, admitting how deeply worried he was.
Latia's heart thumps as she processes the depth of her husband's concern for her well-being.
Lucas mentions the strange rumors circulating about Latia as she looks away with a blush.
A montage of Latia and Lucas at social events reflects on their public and private relationship.
Latia apologizes sincerely, fearing that her personal habits will cause unnecessary trouble for Lucas's reputation. Lucas surprises Latia by pulling up a stool and sitting down right next to her.
Lucas asks Morak for a cup of coffee, shocking Latia by choosing to stay with her.
Latia stares at him in disbelief, surprised that her husband wants to join her secret hobby. Lucas observes that Latia clearly wanted to enjoy the tavern's coffee despite the risks involved.
Lucas tells Latia that in the future, she should simply ask him to come with her.
Lucas looks at Latia and expresses his desire to drink coffee with her as well.
Marak pours steaming dark coffee from a mocha pot into a large wooden mug.
Lucas holds Latia's hand across the bar, asking her if she was hurt during the scuffle.
Latia blushes and looks away, unable to meet Lucas's gaze after his sudden show of care. Lucas holds Latia's hand to his face, explaining the reason he trains himself so hard.
Surrounded by floral motifs, Lucas continues to hold Latia's hand as they talk in the tavern. Latia feels her heart pounding as she experiences a surge of emotion from Lucas's words.
The scene shifts to a wide view of the bustling tavern with many patrons at the bar.
Latia turns to Lucas and asks if he has a specific place he wants to visit. Latia enthusiastically declares her desire to visit a department store while imagining its grand interior.
Narration introduces a large department store located in the capital city of Rimlet.
A grand, white multi-story building stands as the most popular and thriving destination for commoners.
Latia is impressed by the size of the store on her first visit with Lucas.
Lucas and Latia enter the bustling department store through a set of large, ornate glass doors. A display case showcases various rings and pieces of jewelry inside the well-lit store.
A section of the store features men's suits on mannequins and various shirts on a rack. Narration notes that every lady enjoys shopping from the vast selection of irresistible goods available.
Latia glows with excitement as she stands amidst a variety of dresses, shoes, and jewelry.
Lucas looks at a military-style uniform on a mannequin, noting the store's wide range of clothing.
Latia remarks on the numerous options for food and goods, while nearby women notice the nobles.
Latia worries that her noble status is still apparent despite her attempt to wear simple clothes. Narration suggests the department store might be the key to breaking down the thick social classes. Latia gazes thoughtfully at the store, her personal ambition growing as she observes the thriving business. Lucas notices that the clothing here is much cheaper, causing Latia to express regret over the situation. A diagram shows mass-produced dresses, explaining how they are cheaper than custom-made noble attire. Lucas contemplates the efficiency of mass production as a concept he hadn't fully considered before.
Latia gestures toward a short-length dress on a mannequin, noting it is currently a popular trend.
Latia points out that many of the women around them are also wearing the trendy style.
3 young women in the store approach Lucas, looking at him with expressions of nervous excitement.
Lucas turns with a confused expression as he confirms his identity to the group of women. The women swarm Lucas, enthusiastically asking for handshakes, signatures on photos, and acknowledging his fame. Lucas and Latia are both startled by the sudden and overwhelming attention from his local fans.
Latia realizes Lucas's popularity as a national hero and suggests she shop alone for a while.
One of the women trips and cries out in surprise as she loses her balance. A close-up shows a man's hand catching the falling woman to prevent her from hitting the floor. Lucas holds the woman steady and asks if she is all right, causing her to blush deeply.
Latia watches her husband's interactions from a distance, looking on with a slightly serious expression.
Latia blushes and looks down, appearing to be affected by the scene unfolding before her.
Latia stands in the store and welcomes someone who has just approached her from the side.
Latia speaks to a woman named Pamela who is presenting a tray of jewelry to her.
Latia thinks about the lovely fabric patterns and decides to buy gifts for all the maids.
A radiant Latia asks for 10 of the items, looking completely delighted with her shopping choice. A close-up of a boot walking across the floor accompanies the observation that business is booming. 2 shop staff members discuss a noble lady's large purchase and rush to check the stop. A staff member follows a woman in a purple dress, asking her to leave the management to them. The woman in purple declares her intent to work hard and rejects being called a lady. Pamela, the shop owner's daughter, approaches Latia to offer her personal assistance with any needs. Pamela officially introduces herself, standing amidst a background of flowers as she addresses the noble guest. Pamela invites Latia to speak with her directly if any problems arise during her visit. Latia thanks Pamela, noting to herself that the rumors about the young woman's direct nature were true. Pamela explains that the department store does not accept custom orders and asks Latia for her understanding. Pamela reacts with pure shock when Latia expresses her desire to buy matching outfits for her maids. In the background, a group of women swarms Lucas with heart motifs and excited exclamations of delight.
Latia notices the commotion and remarks to Pamela that her husband seems to have caused some trouble.
Lucas looks increasingly distressed and uncomfortable as the local fans continue to crowd around him in the store. A bystander recognizes Lucas as the former knight commander, realizing his high social status and national fame. Letitia offers a gentle and knowing smile while she continues her conversation with the surprised shop owner's daughter. Pamela is stunned to realize her guest is the rumored princess and marquis's wife from the neighboring country. Latia enthusiastically declares that department stores are wonderful and plans to do a significant amount of shopping. Pamela privately considers that while she heard Latia was eccentric, her actual personality far exceeds the rumors. Pamela asks Latia if she intends to match a specific hair ornament with her chosen outfit for today. Latia confirms her plan but admits she is currently struggling to choose between the available jewelry options. Pamela offers her professional advice, suggesting that the ornament on the right would be a better choice.
Latia holds a tray featuring 2 different accessories, looking at them with a focused and contemplative expression.
Chibi Pamela looks around curiously while browsing the various high-end jewelry displays inside the thriving department store.
Pamela places a stylish hat on Latia, suggesting it as a better option for a bolder fashion statement.
A close-up shows Pamela staring at Latia with an expression of total awe after the styling adjustment. Pamela panics over overstepping her bounds, while Latia casually asks if she can purchase the new hat. Pamela reacts with a surprise shout when Latia makes her sudden and very decisive purchase request. Latia offers a warm and sincere smile while thanking Pamela for helping her find the perfect items. A close-up of Chibi Pamela acts tough, telling Latia that flattery will not earn her any special treatment at Brescia's. The scene shifts to a bright cafe where a staff member invites the pair to be seated. Latia laughs cheerfully while sitting in the cafe, exclaiming that she had a lot of fun today. Pamela gestures with her hand while remarking on their successful and very satisfying shopping haul for the day. Chibi Latia celebrates, stating that she learned a significant amount about the recent and popular fashion trends. Lucas hiding in the carriage to escape the fans is a top-tier introversion survival strategy. Chibi Pamela wonders if noble ladies truly worry about mundane things like fashion and current social trends. Latia explains she is researching popularity while Pamela expresses an intense desire to learn more about her mission. A waitress approaches the table and asks the 2 women what they would like to order today. Pamela looks over the menu while Latia waits for her to decide on a beverage for their break. Latia looks up at the waitress with a focused expression, ready to place her unconventional drink order. The waitress confirms the order for 1 tea and 1 coffee, writing it down on her notepad. Pamela is surprised that Latia ordered coffee as Latia begins to explain her true intentions to her. Latia declares she is a huge coffee fan and wants other young ladies to discover its unique charm. A close-up of Pamela shows her looking downward with a serious and very contemplative expression on her face. Pamela offers a rental space facing the aisle with glass windows, prompting an excited and joyful reaction from Latia. Latia reflects on the social stigma of a noble lady ordering coffee in a public cafe setting.
Pamela enthusiastically pledges her support, encouraging Latia to do their absolute best together on this new project. 2 cups, one containing dark coffee and the other tea, sit on a floral patterned table between the friends.
Latia clasps her hands together and smiles joyfully, looking forward to her new and exciting business partnership.
A pitcher pours milk into a cup of coffee, creating an intricate and beautiful white leaf pattern.
Latia invites Pamela and her friends to a coffee session that she promises will be the cutest ever.
Latia feels accomplished and decides to start preparing for a tasting event once she returns to the mansion.
Latia sits inside the carriage, blushing with pure excitement for her upcoming and very ambitious coffee-related plans. Narration confirms that Latia successfully befriended Pamela, the daughter of the prominent department store owner, through shopping.
Latia is shown in a beautiful portrait, smiling peacefully amidst a background of blooming and bright flowers.
Narration notes that Latia was able to arrange a coffee tasting event at the department store as a result.
Chibi Latia cheers happily while resolving to start the preparations for her big event early the next morning.
Lucas watches Latia with a tender and affectionate gaze as she shares her excitement and future plans.
Latia asks what is wrong while they ride together in the ornate carriage.
Lucas looks at her with a soft, affectionate expression against a background of blooming flowers.
Latia blushes and thanks him, looking completely caught off guard by his sudden kindness.
Latia admits she was surprised because he unexpectedly called her cute during their conversation.
Latia's face turns bright red as she bashfully reacts to her husband's unexpected and sweet compliment.
Lucas stares out the window while the carriage rattles, his expression carrying a hint of embarrassment. Their hands rest close together on the carriage seat, a silent testament to their growing intimacy. The carriage continues its journey while the couple sits in a quiet, slightly awkward yet warm atmosphere.
Latia excitedly tells her maid that they must begin the tasting event preparations without any delay.
The maid Bridget confirms that everything has been arranged according to the noblewoman's specific instructions.
Latia enthusiastically suggests preparing for other tasks in the meantime as she glows with pure joy. Lucas works diligently at his desk while his butler Celestin stands by, observing his master's focus.
The black-haired man remarks that Latia appears to be very occupied with her upcoming coffee tasting event. Celestine confirms that the madam is indeed busy with her various projects and preparations.
Lucas decides to finish his work for now, putting his quill back into the inkpot.
Lucas calls out to Latia as she passes by his office, his expression turning gentle.
Lucas notes that Latia seems busy and offers to assist her with any of her tasks.
Latia thanks Lucas for the offer but suggests that he must be equally busy with work. Lucas apologizes for the interruption as he watches his wife continue her busy schedule.
Natalie is introduced as the veteran maid of the mansion, looking on with a pleasant smile.
Latia thanks Natalie and tells Bridget to follow her as she prepares for a short absence.
Lucas stands in the empty hallway, watching Latia depart with a sense of quiet, longing determination. Lucas reflects on his promise to let Latia enjoy coffee and his happiness seeing her happy.
Lucas sees visions of multiple happy Latias, realizing his deep and growing affection for her.
A thought bubble captures Lucas's inner turmoil as he confesses his secret jealousy toward a beverage.
Lucas clenches his fist, resolved to win more of his wife's attention than her favorite drink. Lucas announces his completion of the day's documents and his intent to finally go help Latita. The office stands silent and empty, the discarded quill marking the end of the commander's workday. Golden sunlight filters into the empty sitting room, creating a peaceful pause in the busy day. Natalie is startled by Lucas's sudden appearance and addresses him with a respectful title. Natalie offers a gentle, motherly smile while listening to the master's unusually flustered and sudden request. Celestin politely pardons himself as he addresses Lord Lucas, noticing his master's distracted state. Lucas expresses his desire to visit the farm and commands that a carriage be prepared immediately. Natalie and Celestin watch their master leave with identical expressions of concern and silent judgment. The two veteran servants exchange a knowing look, amused by the obvious change in their master's demeanor. Latia thanks the farmer Bart and mentions she will also consult his wife in the field. Latia waves cheerfully as she walks into the coffee plantation while the farmer looks on nervously. Lucas stands amidst the crops with crossed arms, radiating a darkly jealous aura that terrifies the locals. Bart pleads with Lord Lucas to stop glaring at him with such a frightening and intense look. Bart points out Lucas's love-struck gaze toward Latia, which Lucas frantically denies as pure imagination. Bart questions if the commander's strange behavior is fueled by a sense of deep-seated jealousy.
A close-up of Lucas's mouth captures him beginning to stammer out a frantic and nervous denial. Lucas claims he is not expressing any dissatisfaction regarding his wife's preoccupation with her favorite drink. Bart presents a hypothetical situation where Lucas might feel neglected by his wife's dedication to work. Bart asks Lucas what he would do if his wife's feelings were affected by his own busyness.
Lucas stares intensely as he admits that he personally would be unable to leave her alone. Bart waves goodbye as the conversation ends, leaving Lucas to contemplate his own complicated romantic feelings.
Latia converses with the farmer's wife in the field, continuing her thorough research for the tasting event. Latia looks up with a radiant, joyous smile as she discusses the finer details of the crops. Lucas watches her from a distance, blushing deeply as he realizes how much he loves seeing her happy.
Bart remarks to Lucas that his wife's preoccupation with her hobby is making her master feel lonely.
Latia looks up, blushing as she notices the serious and somewhat tense atmosphere between the two men. Lucas frantically waves his hands while denying the farmer's observation about his current feelings of loneliness. A close-up of Latia shows her softly thinking her husband's name as she watches his flustered reaction.
Latia gazes directly at Lucas and asks him if she has truly made him feel neglected or lonely. Lucas looks away with a flustered expression, claiming that he does not feel lonely at all.
Latia tells her husband that he does not need to worry about being neglected due to her projects. Lucas remains silent, his expression unreadable as he looks downward toward the blooming farm field.
The couple stands close together among the coffee crops, Latia looking at Lucas with a soft expression. A close-up focuses on Lucas's face as he remains silent, contemplating his next words in the garden.
Latia's golden hair flows elegantly in the light breeze while she turns to face her silent husband.
Lucas suddenly reaches out and pulls Latia into a firm embrace, catching her completely by surprise.
Lucas pulls Latia into a warm and protective hug against a background of blooming pink flowers.
A close-up shows Latia's wide-eyed shock as she reacts to her husband's sudden display of affection.
Latia admits that she is still quite embarrassed about such public romantic displays as they continue hugging.
Lucas promises that they will proceed slowly at their own pace while holding his wife very close. The couple stands in a romantic embrace, their figures illuminated by a soft and warm glow. Lucas looks down and calls his wife's name softly while they remain together in each other's arms.
Latia looks up at Lucas with a radiant smile, her face glowing with a new sense of happiness.
Lucas smiles gently while holding Latia's head, both enjoying a moment of pure and quiet connection.
Their hands are entwined in the air as they gladly reaffirm their commitment and affection for one another.
Narration announces that the greatly anticipated coffee tasting event is scheduled to take place tomorrow. A display shows a variety of cute coffee drinks, desserts, and decorations inside a beautiful shop.
Latia and Pamela stand together, proudly announcing that all preparations for the event are finally complete.
A decorative frame captures Latia's resolve to do her absolute best for the success of the tasting event.
An ornate white carriage sits in front of the grand department store building on a bright bay.
Pamela points out the shop to Rosalie, who remarks on how incredibly cute the interior looks.
Rosalie asks about the shop while narration introduces her as a merchant's daughter and Pamela's friend. Pamela tells Rosalie to see for herself as they approach the entrance of the elegantly decorated shop.
A sign outside invites walk-ins to the Marchioness's cute coffee tasting event, causing Rosalie to gasp.
Rosalie wonders to herself why a man's drink like coffee is being served in such a cute setting. Pamela explains that the owner is an unusual lady and offers to introduce her to Rosalie. The shop's interior is shown with elegant white furniture, floral arrangements, and various cute accessories.
Latia welcomes her new guests with a bright smile while wearing a beautiful and elegant dress.
A close-up focuses on the intricate ruffles and beautiful lace details of Latia's new yellow outfit. Rosalie stands paralyzed with a look of pure shock and awe as she gazes at Latia. Pamela enthusiastically greets Latia, who expresses her genuine happiness that her friend could attend the event.
Rosalie thinks about the rumors of Latia being a former princess and villainess running a public business.
Rosalie officially introduces herself to Latia, appearing a bit flustered in the presence of the noblewoman. Rosalie explains her background as a merchant's daughter and describes her lifelong friendship with Pamela. Latia smiles radiantly, looking absolutely delighted to meet her friend's companion and guest for the day.
Rosalie asks if this is truly a coffee shop, and Latia enthusiastically confirms that it is.
Rosalie wonders to herself why a high-ranking Marchioness would be personally involved in running such a shop.
Rosalie considers that selling coffee in such a cute and feminine interior feels quite unusual and mismatched.
Latia acknowledges the guest's curiosity and begins to explain the unique vision for her new shop.
Latia invites her guests to enjoy sampling the cute coffee she especially prepared for them.
Rosalie is visibly confused by the unconventional idea that coffee can be described as cute.
Latia continues to smile brilliantly as she stands behind the counter of her beautifully decorated shop.
Narration notes that Latia certainly possesses an intense and very deep love for her favorite beverage. Rosalie gazes at Latia with a stunned expression, realizing the extent of the noblewoman's obsession with coffee.
The king laughs, leaving the decision to Latia, while she inwardly laments her coffee growing cold.
Dmitri Soldov extends his hand, asking Princess Latia for the honor of being his ball partner.
Latia coldly rejects Dmitri, stating she is not in the mood as her father watches silently.
She reflects that a perfect nobleman should never tolerate contradiction, yet she feels a deep disconnect. Dmitri claims he would never allow a wife to drink coffee, confirming Latia's desire to avoid him.
Latia resolves to spread the charm of coffee in this world, regardless of status or gender.
Narrative text questions if she will become a rebel who defies the kingdom's established social rules.
She remains indifferent to the gossip and thoughts of the socialites surrounding her at the palace.
Latia stands tall, fully embodying her reputation as the unapproachable and freezing Ice Queen of the kingdom.
A transition screen announces the availability of the next chapter and offers a promotion for coins.
A steady stream of light-colored tea is poured into a delicate floral-patterned teacup sitting on a saucer.
A young Latia sits quietly at a lavish tea party table filled with various sweets and cakes.
The young princess focuses on eating a piece of white cake, ignoring the conversations of the adults.
A maid asks Princess Latia if she wants a refill or if she prefers a different tea.
Something the maid says causes the young princess to look up with a sudden, wide-eyed realization.
The group at the tea party looks on as young Latia prepares to speak her mind. Latia glows with excitement and clenches her fists, her face lighting up with newfound hope and joy. The women at the table react with shock and confusion after Latia mentions the word coffee. A heavy, oppressive atmosphere settles over Latia as she senses the judgment from the murmuring socialites.
An adult voice calls an end to the jokes, clearly displeased by the mention of the drink.
A woman tries to soothe the situation, dismissively patting the air and saying, "They're there," to Latia. An elderly maid suggests it is understandable that a young princess like Latia would be so uninformed. Narration explains that in this kingdom, tea is strictly viewed as a drink suitable only for ladies. In contrast, coffee is considered a drink for gentlemen, making it improper for a girl to partake. Young Latia looks down at the table, processing the news that her favorite beverage is socially forbidden. Back in the present, Latia takes a slow, graceful sip from her secret cup of dark coffee. She pulls the cup away, disappointed to find that the drink has finally lost its optimal warmth. She blames Dmitri Soldov for interrupting her peace and causing her perfectly brewed cup to go cold. Latia gazes longingly at her cup, saddened that such a high-quality brew was ultimately wasted by interruption. The princess sits in the garden gazebo while a maid stands nearby, awaiting further royal instructions. For a change of pace, the maid suggests that Latia go inspect the various gifts for the ball. Latia agrees that the maid is right and decides she will take a look at the offerings. Latia stands up and prepares to depart the gazebo with her maid to inspect the ballroom preparations. Within the palace halls, a maid asks for guidance on where to place a large decorative vase. Latia walks through the palace doors into a large room overflowing with numerous gifts and social offerings. The princess thinks to herself that the amount of gifts received this time is truly incredible and overwhelming. Maids and servants work diligently among rows of flowers, jewelry, and luxury items intended for the royal. A servant named Elliot greets Latia, and she observes that he seems particularly busy with the preparations. Nearby maids whisper among themselves, wondering why the princess has arrived and if they are being interrupted. Elliot maintains a cheerful smile while holding his documents, happy to serve the princess during the busy day. Baskets containing fresh fish and ripe peaches sit among the more traditional and expensive noble gifts. The collection includes numerous beautiful dresses and accessories sent by nobles hoping to gain the princess's favor. Latia passes by displays of expensive jewelry and antiques, all intended as flashy displays of wealth and status. She looks at the vibrant floral arrangements, noting that they serve as nothing more than visual fluff. Narration describes the gifting as a hollow way for nobles to appeal to the vanity of the family. The entire process is characterized as a shallow contest of vanity played out among the kingdom's highest nobles. Latia looks at the extravagant flower displays and thinks to herself that the entire spectacle is truly exasperating. She considers the mass of flowers a waste, believing that gathering so many more than necessary is foolish.
A maid questions where a basket of berries came from, declaring she will dispose of such a common gift.
Latia suddenly intervenes, asking the startled maid to let her see the basket of berries for a moment.
Pamela whispers to Rosalie that the noblewoman is unusual, and Rosalie nervously agrees with her assessment.
Rosalie smiles warmly and enthusiastically confirms her agreement with Pamela's observation about their host. Latia picks up a whisk and instructs Bridget to lead their guests to a nearby table. A shiny silver milk pitcher filled with white liquid sits against a decorative striped backdrop. Narration explains that frothed milk is made by heating and frothing whole milk with a steam wand, which requires significant skill. A simple text box clarifies that the technique is easy to perform by hand once mastered. Latia stands in her shop and begins whisking a bowl of milk to create a foam. A diagram illustrates the process of incorporating air into the milk bowl using a large arrow. A text box emphasizes the importance of focusing on incorporating air into the milk during whisking. Chibi Latia looks extremely pleased with herself as she continues whisking the milk for her guests.
A close-up shows the tip of the whisk dipping into the white, frothy milk in the bowl.
A close-up highlights the smooth and creamy white surface of the freshly frothed milk foam bowl.
Pamela praises Latia's cooking ability while Rosalie marvels at how airy and fluffy the milk looks.
Latia holds her pitcher and cup, excitedly announcing that the real demonstration is about to start.
A close-up captures Latia slowly pouring the frothed milk into a cup of dark coffee.
A text box provides instructions to hold the milk pitcher 2 centimeters above the cup while pouring. A pink arrow diagram illustrates the circular motion needed to pour the milk into the cup. The guide explains that the pitcher should be brought closer once the cup is half full. A close-up shows the milk foam rising to the surface to form a decorative white pattern. A text box explains the need to change the pour style to bring foam to the surface. Latia smiles brightly while holding the cup and pitcher, announcing that she has finished the drink.
Rosalie and Pamela are dazzled by the beautiful heart-shaped latte art presented in a cup. Rosalie stares at the drink in shock, claiming it is lovely and unlike anything seen before.
Latia starts pouring a second drink, mentioning she is making this one especially for Miss Rosalie.
A close-up shows an incredibly detailed rose pattern crafted from white milk foam on the coffee.
A small text box confirms that the creator has successfully made a rose design on top.
Rosalie blushes and holds her hands to her face, overwhelmed by the beauty of the rose.
Latia looks at her guest and expresses her sincere hope that the drink suits her taste.
Pamela asks if they have to drink it, and Rosalie agrees, while a thought bubble notes that suddenly asking them to drink coffee is quite difficult.
Rosalie shouts with wide eyes that drinking the beautiful coffee would be a total waste.
Chibi Latia looks stunned by Rosalie's intense reaction to the artistic presentation of her favorite beverage.
Rosalie tells Pamela that they should drink the coffee before it gets cold while they both hold their cups.
Rosalie reacts to the coffee's flavor, exclaiming it is delicious like a dessert, not bitter, and the fluffy milk leaves an addictive aftertaste.
Latia glows with a radiant and satisfied smile as she watches her guests enjoy coffee.
Latia expresses her relief while Pamela and Rosalie snack on cookies and drink their decorative lattes.
Pamela addresses Latia, but the noblewoman clenches her fist and excitedly prepares for the next round.
Latia enthusiastically invites her guests to try more cute coffee and asks for their favorite animals. Chibi Pamela suggests a dog as a tiny floating dog icon appears next to her head. Chibi Rosalie happily announces that she likes bears as a bear icon floats above her head. Latia holds her pitcher and an orange cup, ready to start the next step of her demonstration. Narration explains that frothed milk separates over time, with the liquid sinking and the top becoming lighter foam. Latia carefully pours a stream of white milk into an orange cup to create a base. A text box explains the process of filling the cup to 80% to create the base. A close-up shows a silver spoon carefully placing a dollop of thick milk foam on top. Pamela asks if Latia is making 3-dimensional foam art, and Latia enthusiastically confirms that she is. A text box describes the process of dipping a skewer into melted chocolate to draw details. A close-up shows the skewer drawing a small face onto a mound of thick milk foam. Latia smiles and holds the skewer, proudly announcing that her 3D latte art is finally finished. Pamela and Rosalie scream that the art is too cute to drink as animal-shaped foam creatures emerge from the cups. Latia stands at the counter with her guests and says, while thinking about her next move. Excited guests peek inside the shop, asking if they can also have the cute coffee. Latia happily serves the new guests at the counter while Pamela and Rosalie watch. Latia's laughter echoes through the shop as she celebrates the successful start of her event. Beautiful blue roses bloom brightly, adding a touch of elegance to the shop's charming atmosphere. The shop is filled with noble ladies enjoying their coffee and the warm, inviting ambiance.
Latia warmly welcomes Pamela back to the crowded shop and offers her a comfortable seat.
The coffee tasting event concludes as a massive success, earning a permanent weekly schedule.
A worried Chibi Latia wonders if her events are causing any trouble for the store. Pamela reassures her that the tasting event guests stay to shop at the department store.
Pamela mentions her father is truly grateful for the new coffee bean contract they secured.
Chibi Pamela stands proudly beside her father, the owner of the grand and successful department store.
The department store owner and Bart shake hands, finalizing their deal for direct bean purchases. Narration explains the country will buy half the coffee production while the store takes 15%.
A pie chart visually represents the allocation of coffee beans among the country and department store.
Latia serves Pamela more coffee as they discuss the thriving success of their new partnership. Latia looks out thoughtfully, silently hoping that their ambitious plans continue to proceed smoothly. The scene shifts to the reception room of the estate on the following busy day. A man with a thin mustache thanks Latia for inviting him to meet at her estate. Wise introduces himself as a representative of the trading company and mentions hearing rumors about Latia. Bridget watches the guest with a sharp, suspicious gaze, sensing the man's dishonest intentions. Latia maintains a polite but firm expression while facing the man known as a crooked merchant.
Latia remains silent and observant as she prepares to negotiate with the manipulative and greedy guest.
Wise smirks arrogantly while addressing Latia, his eyes flashing with a hint of hidden malice.
Latia realizes this man will be a formidable opponent who will not be easily swayed.
Latia's hand rests near a dish of coffee beans as she reviews the contract's unfair terms. Wise leans back comfortably, appearing confident that he holds all the power in their negotiation.
Latia argues that coffee prices have risen and the current low offers are no longer acceptable.
Wise dismissively claims they already raised the price this year to accommodate the market changes.
Latia retorts that a single silver coin increase is insufficient and their profit remains unfairly high.
Wise looks at his expensive ring, ignoring her valid points with an air of smug superiority.
Wise asks for guarantees against loss while the farmer Bart stands by, looking visibly distressed.
Wise mocks the farm's financial state,
Suggesting they should settle now to stay in profit.
A sugar cube splashes into a cup of coffee as Wise pressures Latia to decide. Latia and Bart react with shock to the merchant's blatant disrespect and his aggressive ultimatum.
A demand for Latia to make her decision immediately appears against a dark, tense background.
Wise asks if she will save the farm or gamble on a trend and go bankrupt.
Latia delivers a firm and absolute refusal, catching the arrogant merchant completely off his guard.
Latia confidently declares the farm will not fail even if they refuse to sell to him.
Latia refuses to sell even a single coffee bean unless the merchant accepts her fair price. Wise's smug expression falters as he realizes Latia is not as easily manipulated as he thought.
Bart gazes at Latia with wide-eyed astonishment, surprised by her bold and very risky defiance. A sinister voice questions her certainty with a dark laugh as the atmosphere turns incredibly tense.
Wise stares intensely at Latia, his face shadowed as he tries to intimidate her into submission.
Latia places her hand firmly on the table, signaling the finality of her unwavering decision. Latia warns Wise he will be the one to regret this and orders Bridget to leave. Wise laughs mockingly to himself, finding the idea of his own future regret to be amusing.
The merchant's dark thoughts linger as the scene fades into an ominous and murky purple.
Latia takes a weary sip of coffee, feeling drained after the intense confrontation with the merchant.
Pamela and Rosalie support Latia's decision, confirming the trading company has a very poor reputation. A promotional notice announces the end of the chapter and shares information about joining the team.
Latia ponders the next steps for her business as she stands in her beautifully decorated shop.
Pamela looks deeply concerned as she considers the challenges facing their new coffee sales targets.
Rosalie considers how to make coffee sales explode and reach their ambitious marketing goals.
The three women stand together in the shop, caught in a moment of deep, silent contemplation.
A stylish shoe makes a firm sound against the floor as someone unexpectedly enters the room.
Latia turns in surprise as her name is called out by the visitor arriving at her shop. Lucas arrives to pick up Latia for dinner, noting that it is getting quite late.
Chibi versions of Pamela and Rosalie react with wide-eyed shock at the commander's sudden appearance.
Latia checks her pocket watch and realizes she lost track of time while having fun. Lucas and Latia share a tender look as they stand together in a romantic floral atmosphere.
Pamela and Rosalie swoon, noting how close the couple must be for the Marquise to visit.
Pamela gasps as a sudden, brilliant inspiration strikes her while watching the couple together.
Pamela excitedly announces that she has a great idea while addressing her surprised friends.
Pamela suggests using the couple's public relationship as a key part of their marketing campaign.
Lucas questions what kind of promotional effect their simple act of drinking coffee could have. A vision depicts the couple in a grand carriage, adored by the public during a parade.
Pamela explains that if admired figures like them enjoy the drink, the public will follow.
A bright text box emphasizes that this strategy will definitely capture everyone's attention.
Pamela's eyes sparkle with excitement as she envisions the potential success of her marketing idea.
Lucas and Latia look at each other with confusion, wondering about their status as admired figures.
Pamela confidently predicts that the campaign will be a guaranteed hit among both commoners and nobles.
Rosalie agrees that appearance is vital and begins sketching new designs in her notebook.
A notebook shows rough silhouette sketches of the couple facing each other in a romantic pose. A close-up shows Rosalie's skilled hand detailing the romantic silhouettes of the couple in her book.
Rosalie proudly shows her sketches to the group, seeking their approval for the promotional art.
Lucas praises Rosalie's artistic talent while the girls react with a mix of pride and surprise.
Latia reflects on her past life's experience with collaborations while considering the product's content. Chibi Pamela enthusiastically begs Latia to create the perfect coffee product for their campaign.
A dreamy vision shows Lucas gently holding Latia's face as they gaze lovingly at one another.
Pamela is completely overwhelmed by the romantic potential of the couple's image for the brand.
Latia acknowledges Pamela's marketing instincts, recognizing her talent as a department store owner's daughter.
Latia looks up at Lucas with a soft expression, her thoughts lingering on his support.
Lucas watches his wife with a steady and affectionate gaze as they talk in the shop.
Latia expresses her concern about whether an exaggerated advertisement is truly the right approach.
Later that evening, the couple relaxes together on a plush sofa in their elegant home.
Latia sits with her hand on her chin, deeply considering her next moves for the shop.
A variety of coffee, sweets, fruits, and honey are laid out beautifully on a table.
Lucas enjoys a chocolate while Latia discusses the different ways coffee can be consumed.
Latia smiles radiantly as she talks about the excitement of discovering new coffee flavors. A thought bubble highlights the crisp bitterness of coffee as a fundamental part of the experience.
Latia explains how coffee harmonizes with other flavors like sweetness and acidity to create something wonderful. Latia tells her husband she is certain a perfect coffee exists for their new product.
Lucas looks at Latia with a gentle and supportive smile, clearly captivated by her passion. Latia expresses her gratitude to Lucas, her face glowing with happiness and relief. The atmosphere becomes heavy and romantic as Lucas leans closer toward his wife on the sofa.
The two remain in a close, intimate space, their eyes locked in a moment of connection.
Lucas stammers out a nervous denial while blushing, caught off guard by the intense mood.
Latia blushes deeply and tucks a lock of hair behind her ear, feeling quite flustered. Latia's hand clenches the fabric of the sofa as she reacts to her husband's proximity.
The couple sits together in a state of mutual embarrassment and affection as the scene ends. A cup of coffee with a melting square of butter sits next to small snacks.
Narration details a butter coffee recipe and highlights its nutritional and concentration-boosting benefits for drinkers.
Lucas notes the marketing appeal, while Latia asks if he is curious about other varieties.
Latia presents a fruit-infused option, noting that its aroma differs significantly from traditional coffee.
A cup of black coffee is served with 2 cinnamon sticks resting on the saucer.
Latia and Lucas see their reflection in the coffee as she introduces the cinnamon variety. Latia explains that stirring with the cinnamon stick enhances both the presentation and the flavor. Cinnamon coffee improves circulation and helps relieve the sensation of cold limbs. Latia enthusiastically explains the specific health benefits of her latest coffee creation to her husband.
Lucas takes a sip of the cinnamon coffee, savoring the new and unique flavor profile.
Lucas praises the drink, noting how the sweet aroma perfectly complements the distinct coffee taste. Latia looks thoughtful as she considers her husband's preferences and her next ambitious business moves.
Lucas reflects on his work habits and decides that butter coffee is perfect for him.
Lucas humorously notes his preference has little to do with their marriage, making Latia smile.
Latia thanks Lucas for his input and reminds him not to overexert himself at work. Lucas suddenly reaches out and takes Latia's hand in a surprising and very intimate gesture. Lucas holds Latia's hand firmly while enjoying his coffee, causing her to blush in surprise. Latia blushes deeply, feeling flustered while thinking she is not being very useful to him.
Lucas remains quiet and thoughtful, his gaze lingering on his wife during their shared moment.
Latia looks back at Lucas with a soft, affectionate smile as the atmosphere becomes romantic. A close-up captures Latia's wide, sparkling purple eyes as she gazes back at her husband. Latia sits on the sofa, appearing somewhat overwhelmed by the sudden shift in the mood. Lucas watches Latia with a steady, affectionate gaze that makes her heart race with excitement. Lucas watches Latia with a thoughtful and intensely loving gaze as he prepares to speak. Latia looks back at him with an expectant and affectionate expression in the quiet room. Lucas leans in closer to Latia, his focused gaze never leaving hers for a second. The space between them narrows as Lucas continues to approach Latia with deliberate, gentle movements. Memories of the couple's relationship float by as they share an intimate and romantic moment. Lucas reaches out toward Latia, his hand moving with a sense of tenderness and care. A soft light highlights the fine details of Lucas's outfit during their close encounter. Lucas looks at Latia with a pensive expression, his eyes reflecting his sincere and deep affection.
Latia looks up at Lucas, her face flushed with a mixture of surprise and genuine happiness.
Lucas remains thoughtful, his expression a mix of affection and slight hesitation as they talk. Lucas notes that Latia's face is red and asks if she is feeling unwell. Latia looks away and blushes deeply while insisting that she is perfectly fine. Lucas continues to observe his wife with a gentle smile, clearly captivated by her reaction.
Lucas reaches out and places his hand under Latia's chin, gently lifting her face toward his.
Lucas leans in close, his face just inches from Latia's as the tension between them peaks. Latia stares at her husband with wide eyes, her blush deepening as she anticipates his next move. A close-up of Lucas's eye highlights the intense emotion and affection he feels for his wife.
Lucas softly calls out Latia's name while she clutches the fabric of her nightgown.
Lucas tilts Latia's head back slightly as he leans in to close the distance between them.
The couple is captured from above, embracing closely on the sofa under the chandelier's glow. Lucas holds Latia's face with a tender hand while looking deeply into her shimmering purple eyes.
Lucas and Latia share a passionate kiss as a beautiful floral aura surrounds the couple.
Lucas runs his hand through Latia's soft blonde hair as they sink into a deep embrace. Latia suddenly pulls back with a startled expression as a new inspiration strikes her. Latia excitedly suggests that they should create a snack using the unique flavors of coffee.
Lucas repeats the word snack with a look of pure confusion and mild disappointment.
Chibi Latias cheer and celebrate as she finds fresh motivation for her coffee business. Latia considers keeping the flavor profile of her next creation on the sweeter side.
Lucas gazes at his wife with a tender and supportive expression.
Lucas suddenly sweeps Latia off her feet, prompting her to shout his name in surprise. Lucas maintains a determined and slightly blushing look as he holds Latia.
Latia protests that sleeping now would cause her to forget her important inspirations. Lucas carries Latia toward her bedroom while she nervously wonders what is happening.
The couple walks together as Latia softly calls out to her husband.
Lucas reaches out and gently cups Latia's blushing face in his hand.
Lucas leans in close to Latia, his gaze focused and intimate.
A close-up captures the soft lighting highlighting Lucas' features during the encounter.
Lucas offers a small, affectionate smile as he stays close to Latia. Latia looks back at him with wide, shimmering purple eyes and a flushed face. Lucas gives Latia a firm instruction to go to bed and rest immediately. Latia stands alone, looking startled and clenching her hands over her heart. Latia covers her mouth and blushes deeply, feeling overwhelmed by the recent interaction. At the department store, a customer asks the clerk about the candy jars. The clerk explains the item is the newest sensation while thanking the customer. Pamela happily announces that the product is a department store exclusive. The Black Kiss coffee candy is featured in an ornate jar with a bow. Pamela and Rosalie stand together amidst a floral background, overseeing the product launch. Narration confirms that Rosalie was responsible for the package design and distribution. Latia tastes a sample in the kitchen while a chef looks on for feedback. Latia credits Lucas for helping establish mass production within his own territory. A collection of Black Kiss coffee candy jars is displayed elegantly for sale. Customers admire the candy display while Lucas and Latia stand nearby in formal attire. Lucas observes the product's popularity with young women, and Latia agrees with his assessment. Pamela greets the couple and excitedly reports that the candy is selling very well. Rosalie and Pamela smile together while holding one of the decorative candy jars. A heart-shaped candy falls from the jar as someone considers buying more to find one. Pamela notes the bulk purchases while Rosalie teases her about her focus on money. Latia suggests that they should all take a look around the sales floor. Lucas looks over at Latia while Rosalie watches the couple with a knowing smile.
Latia recalls the passionate kiss she shared with Lucas and becomes flustered.
Latia is mortified that she thought of business ideas immediately after kissing her husband. Latia desperately tries to keep her composure and stay calm despite her racing thoughts. A towering tiered display of the coffee candy jars sits on a lace-covered table. Lucas and Latia stand by the display, with Latia responding to his question. Latia forces a stiff, formal smile as her royal skill poker face is activated. Lucas reaches toward a candy jar to pick it up for a closer look. Latia reacts with a sudden start as Lucas' hand moves near the product. Lucas apologizes while Latia realizes she reflexively brushed his hand away in her panic. A close-up shows Latia's hand tightly clenching the fabric of her skirt. Rosalie and Pamela watch the awkward interaction between the couple with concerned looks. Rosalie expresses worry about the consequences if the couple appears to be on bad terms. A vision shows the marketing campaign failing as the couple stands coldly back to back. Pamela panics about the potential disaster while Rosalie secretly enjoys the drama she instigated. Pamela pushes the couple together, insisting they leave the coffee candy business to her. Latia looks completely baffled by Pamela's sudden and intense burst of energy. Pamela points upward with a sparkle in her eye, fully committed to her plan. Lucas and Latia both shout in total shock at Pamela's aggressive meddling. Lucas and Latia share a flustered look as the shop atmosphere remains romantic.
Rosalie cautions Pamela that her sudden suggestions might trouble the couple's privacy.
Rosalie suggests exploring the department store's current exhibitions to lighten the mood. Lucas agrees to the suggestion, and Latia complies if it suits his wishes. The couple walks away together, Lucas placing a protective hand on Latia's waist. Rosalie playfully teases Pamela about her obvious preoccupation with profit over work. Latia calls out to her husband as they stroll through the opulent hall. Lucas pauses and touches his chin, appearing deep in thought about something. Latia gestures toward her surroundings, her expression shifting to one of mild curiosity. Latia nervously twists her hair, mentioning how preoccupied she was with candy production. Lucas pulls Latia closer by the shoulder, making her blush and stutter his name. Lucas questions why she is so busy before she can finish her sentence. Lucas reminds Latia of his help and asks for a reward in return. Latia repeats the word reward in a flustered daze as her face reddens. Lucas leans in close for an intimate kiss as the atmosphere becomes intense. Latia expresses her concern about sharing such a private moment in public view. Lucas guides Latia toward a more secluded area, away from any wandering eyes. Lucas looms over Latia in the shadows, his presence feeling much more assertive. Latia adamantly refuses to give him a reward while they are still here. A sudden movement occurs as Lucas reaches out for the ribbons on Latia's gown. Lucas pulls Latia closer by the decorative ropes on her outfit, tightening their proximity. The couple stands alone in a quiet, arched corridor under soft lighting. Lucas pins Latia against the wall, calling out her name in a soft voice.
Lucas corners Latia and suggests that they are now in the perfect spot. Latia admits there are no witnesses, but still feels incredibly nervous about the situation.
Lucas gestures toward his face, asking again for her to provide his reward.
Lucas watches Latia with a steady, affectionate gaze while waiting for her response. Latia realizes the true nature of the reward he is asking for and blushes. Latia reaches up toward Lucas's neck as she prepares to give him. Lucas and Latia share a tender kiss as a floral aura surrounds the couple. Latia firmly declares that the kiss marks the end of his requested reward.
Lucas calls out her name softly as the romantic atmosphere lingers between them.
Lucas pulls Latia into a deep embrace, resting his head against her shoulder. Lucas asks to hold her for just a moment longer in the quiet hallway. Latia places her hand on Lucas's back, returning his hug with a smile. Latia closes her eyes and smiles happily while being held close by Lucas. Latia suggests they return to their duties as the official faces of the advertisement. Latia smiles warmly as she considers the future of her business and relationship. Lucas agrees and suggests they head toward the perfume exhibition to continue their tour. Night falls over the estate as the butler Celestin welcomes the master and mistress home. Celestin presents a letter from the royal palace, which Lucas finds very unusual. Lucas reads the document, which turns out to be an invitation to a ball. Lucas informs Latia that the king specifically requested to meet and speak with her. Latia sees this as a golden opportunity to promote her coffee at the palace. The couple arrives at the grand royal ballroom, drawing the attention of the nobility. The announcer introduces Marquis Lucas Bresciaz and the Marchioness to the gathered crowd. Latia enters the ballroom with grace, her long pink gown trailing behind her. Latia resolves to use this royal event to promote her Black Kiss brand. Latia stands confidently in her ornate pink dress, adorned with many delicate rose accessories. A close-up highlights the intricate floral details and jewelry decorating Latia's elegant ball gown. Latia displays the back of her elegant pink gown adorned with delicate ribbons and flowers. Lucas notes his matching coffee brooch and hopes it draws everyone's eyes to them today. Latia stands blushing beside Lucas, her eyes filled with nervous anticipation during the royal ball. Lucas asks what is wrong while Latia looks up at him within the bright hall. Lucas notes the time passed since their wedding, and Latia agrees it has been a while. Lucas admits his discomfort with the atmosphere, while nobles begin to notice his arrival with Latia. Onlookers admire Lucas's transition from commoner to marquis, noting his continued dignity as former commander. Latia carries herself with quiet grace as she waits beside her husband in the opulent ballroom. The guests gossiped about Latia's innovations, her visits to shops, and her former villainous reputation. Latia reflects on the surprisingly favorable nature of the rumors she overhears from the noble crowd. A voice calls out to Latia, drawing the couple's attention toward a guest in Boodle. Helen approaches with a warm greeting, noting the significant time that has passed since they met. Latia expresses her joy at seeing Helen, who responds with formal respect to the Marquiness. Latia playfully reminds her friend of their agreement to use first names during their last gathering. A memory shows the two women baking together, confirming their close bond through shared hobbies. The two women share a tender moment, holding hands as they celebrate their rekindled social connection. Latia introduces Helen to Lucas, and Helen expresses her deep honor at meeting the Marquis. Letitia asks about Helen's husband just as he is called over from the refreshment table. Marshall arrives holding a plate of appetizers and a drink, offering a humble apology for his absence. Marshall introduces himself as Helen's husband and apologizes for any offense, while Lucas grants him ease. Lucas expresses his sincere hope that their two families can build a closer relationship moving forward. Helen and Marshall react with wide-eyed surprise to the Marquis's unexpected offer of friendship and alliance. Marshall enthusiastically confesses his long-standing support for Lucas, dating back to his days as knight commander. The surrounding nobility observes the friendly interaction, noting the apparent closeness between the two powerful couples. Another noblewoman in a blue dress joins the group, offering a polite greeting to the company. Three women stand together in the ballroom, representing a growing circle of influential social allies. The woman praises the recent tea party and the delicious taste of the Black Kiss candy. A close-up focuses on a guest's mouth as she prepares to share her newfound culinary preferences. A noblewoman shyly admits she would like to try coffee at their next social gathering together. Letitia recognizes her as a previous non-drinker and eagerly offers to host her for a tasting. Latia beams with joy as she secures more interest in her coffee business from the nobility. Onlookers remark that Latia's actual personality seems remarkably different from the negative rumors they once heard. Lucas informs Latia it is time to meet the king, and she bids farewell to Helen. The couple officially addresses the monarch, expressing their gratitude for the invitation to the royal palace. The king tells them to set aside formalities and be at ease during their private audience. The king asks Latia if she finds her current daily life satisfying and free of needs. Latia confirms her happiness, and the king expresses his genuine satisfaction at hearing his subject as well. The king reveals the queen loves Black Kiss but is absent due to her delicate health status. A vision shows the queen sharing the heart-shaped candy with the king, who found it delicious.
Latia and Lucas react with shock and embarrassment to the news of the Queen's personal endorsement. The king questions their stunned expressions while Lucas struggles to maintain his composure during the talk. The king mentions the candy's romantic jinx, noting that sharing it makes love prosper between partners.
The king observes Latia with a pensive look, perhaps reassessing her influence within the noble circle. The king decides to place a personal order, and Latia responds with exuberant thanks for his support.
A woman in a blue gown stands by a table filled with sandwiches and desserts. Lucas enjoys a snack as he takes a brief break from his official duties. Latia remarks on the king's mention of her brand, realizing it will drastically accelerate coffee's popularity. Latia takes a celebratory sip of her drink while reflecting on her successful marketing progress. Latia leans affectionately toward her husband, sharing a moment of quiet triumph amidst the crowded ballroom. Lucas watches his wife with a steady, affectionate gaze, clearly captivated by her radiant presence. Latia sips her drink and looks puzzled as she notices something unusual in the ballroom. A man in a blue military-style uniform adjusts his formal attire as he approaches Latia. Lucas bows gracefully and asks Latia if she would like to share a dance with him. Latia looks up in surprise at her husband as memories of their past encounters resurface. Latia happily accepts Lucas's hand as they prepare to take to the dance floor together. The couple begins their dance in the center of the grand, brightly lit royal ballroom. Lucas admits that dancing reminds him of their first meeting, while Latia recalls her own surprise.
As they move together, Latia playfully asks Lucas if her current appearance suits his taste.
They both recall a past moment when a younger Latia asks Lucas about her decorative ribbon. Lucas looks at his wife with a gentle smile and warmly confirms that she looks wonderful. Latia is stunned to discover coffee berries inside the common-looking gift basket. The basket is undeniably filled with fresh, vibrant coffee cherries from a distant land. Latia laughs joyfully as she continues to dance, feeling deeply happy in her husband's arms. Onlookers admire the couple, remarking that they look like a legendary hero and princess in love. The couple remains the center of attention as they glide gracefully across the ornate ballroom floor. A mysterious silhouette watches the couple from behind a pillar, lurking in the shadows of the hall. A resentful noble watches Lucas with envy, muttering threats about his common origins and impending trouble. Latia decisively claims the basket for herself, startling the servants with her sudden interest. The maids express total shock that the princess would want such a lowly plant. Her eyes glisten with intense excitement as she realizes a dream might be possible. Latia urgently demands to know the identity of the person who sent the berries. The panicked maids scurry away to find the sender's name for the expectant princess. Latia learns a foreign marquis sent the gift and decides to learn more. She gently touches the coffee berries, overwhelmed by the miracle of finding them here. The princess reflects on the sender, wondering if he shares her rare passion for coffee. Latia imagines a man who would openly embrace and support her secret coffee drinking habit. Latia wonders about the marquise's character as she is summoned by her maid Bridget.
Latia meets Bridget, her loyal maid who has been patiently awaiting her roundel.
The pair enters the dressing room to transform the princess for the evening's festivities.
Bridget presents the formal attire, receiving high praise from the satisfied Princess Latia.
The maid carefully fastens the corset, ensuring the princess looks impeccable for the grand ball.
Bridget checks the final fit while Latia suddenly realizes she is missing a specific detail.
Latia requests her hair ornament, her gaze lingering on the ribbon from the coffee basket. Bridget ties the simple blue ribbon from the gift into the princess's golden tur. Bridget inquisitively asks if the princess has a specific strategy for the night. Latia stands tall in her elegant dress, radiating a newfound sense of confidence and joy. She wears a mischievous smile, ready to shock the high society with her secret rebellion. Lavish floral arrangements decorate the palace, setting a formal tone for the prestigious event. The grand ballroom is filled with guests as the royal entrance begins. A brown-haired nobleman feels deep discomfort, realizing he is ill-suited for such hollow gatherings. Lucas Precious struggles with the oppressive weight of noble expectations and his own social anxiety. He reflects on his transition from a knight captain to a marquis 3 years ago. His memories recall his leadership during the grueling war that brought peace to Limuret. The crowds cheered for the war hero as he led his victorious knights home. The king rewarded Lucas's bravery with a noble title and his own territory. In his new land, Lucas cultivated vast fields of flourishing coffee plants with great care. The humble marquis personally tends to his coffee crops alongside his loyal subjects.
Lucas works diligently on administrative duties to ensure his territory's prosperity and growth.
His new status brings the burdensome expectation of finding a suitable noble wife. He receives an invitation that pulls him away from his beloved, quiet life. Lucas admits his social awkwardness but hopes to forge meaningful bonds at the ball. Lucas insists on presenting his territory's specialty gift despite his secretary's preference for fashion. The secretary warns that tradition is often ignored in favor of splendid, flashy offerings.
Lucas proudly declares his devotion to his territory and its honest local produce.
He prepares a simple basket of coffee cherries adorned with a modest blue ribbon.
A palace servant receives the unusual gift with a look of pure, confused disbelief. Lucas encourages the skeptical servant to experience the unique flavor of his specialty gift.
The servant professionally accepts the coffee basket, though its true value remains unrecognized.
Lucas stands alone at the ball, feeling completely disconnected from the shallow gossip around him.
He questions his secretary's advice as he observes the shallow behavior of the nobles.
Lucas acknowledges that he may never truly fit into the rigid world of the nobility.
The crowd erupts in cheers as King Helsa and Princess Latia make their entrance.
Lucas spots the king and prepares himself to perform his formal diplomatic duties.
He notices something strange about the princess's hair. The socialites whisper about Latia's lack of a partner as she enters with her father.
Latia enters the ball while the brown-haired Lucas notes socialites gossiping about her coldness. Narration highlights her chilling reputation as the ice beauty princess as she walks through the hall. The focus shifts to the simple blue ribbon decorating the princess's golden hair.
Lucas looks visibly nervous, sweating as he observes the princess and the surrounding crowd.
A flashback shows a large wooden crate overflowing with ripe red coffee cherries.
Lucas and a bespectacled man discuss ways to make the simple gift basket look presentable. They settle on a modest blue ribbon to adorn the basket of fresh coffee berries. Returning to the present, Lucas realizes the ribbon in Latia's hair matches his gift. Latia looks around the ballroom with a searching gaze, seemingly looking for a specific person. The princess maintains a neutral expression as she scans the crowd of noble guests. A sudden, radiant smile from Latia catches Lucas and the other guests completely off guard.
The socialites are paralyzed with shock, unable to believe the Ice Queen is actually smiling.
Latia approaches and specifically addresses the man as Marquis Lucas Precious of the Limuret Kingdom. She formally introduces herself as Latia Helsa, her eyes bright with sudden recognition. Lucas apologizes for his unexpected presence as the princess greets him with a polite bow. Lucas identifies himself and wonders aloud how the princess could possibly know his name. Latia reaches up to touch the blue ribbon, hinting at the source of her knowledge.
She beams while thanking Lucas for the wonderful gift he sent to the palace.
The pair stands together in the grand ballroom, becoming the center of all attention.
Lucas confirms his identity and status, still processing the princess's direct and friendly approach.
A close-up highlights the elegant, noble attire Lucas wears for the prestigious royal event.
Lucas extends his hand, formally requesting the honor of a dance with Princess Latita. The entire ballroom gasps in horror at the perceived social blunder of the brown-haired man. Whispers intensify as guests recall the rumor that the princess refuses to dance with anyone. The surrounding nobles watch with bated breath, expecting a harsh rejection from the Ice Queen. To everyone's absolute astonishment, Latia places her hand in his and accepts the dance. Latia laughs joyfully during the dance, a sight that further baffles the watching socialites. The couple glides across the floor while the crowd continues to whisper about the shocking development. An older nobleman expresses total disbelief, unable to make sense of the princess's behavior.
Latia looks up at Lucas and playfully asks if his blue ribbon suits her hair.
Lucas blushes while confirming the ribbon is lovely, struggling to maintain his composure. Latia mentions her father's report regarding the massive coffee cherry plantation in Lucas's territory. Lucas proudly explains that the fruits were harvested at the peak of their ripeness.
He expresses his sincere hope that the princess will visit the plantation in the future.
Latia enthusiastically accepts the invitation, her eyes sparkling with genuine excitement. Lucas remains somewhat overwhelmed by the princess's intense interest in his humble territory. Latia offers a serene smile, appearing more relaxed than she ever has in public. She leans in and whispers for Lucas to meet her at the king's office later. Latia promises to personally introduce the Marquis to her father in a more private setting. Later, Lucas stands alone in the palace, feeling the heavy burden of the royal summons. He arrives at the massive office doors, wondering what the princess could possibly want. Lucas announces his arrival to the guards, identifying himself as head of the Brushias family. The king warmly welcomes Lord Brashaz into the study, beckoning him toward the desk. Lucas approaches cautiously, his expression reflecting deep suspicion regarding the king's sudden hospitality. Guards remain stationed throughout the hallway, ensuring the total privacy of the royal meeting. The grand wooden doors stand closed, sealing the three figures inside the king's private office. Narration notes the presence of someone hiding under the desk, adding to the suspicious atmosphere. Lucas bows while thanking the king for the invitation, inwardly fearing a potential social ambush. A sudden, firm hand on his shoulder startles the Marquis during the tense formal greeting. The king leans in with a wide grin, asking if Lucas will take Latia as his bride. King Helsa offers to entrust Latia to Lucas, leaving the Marquis completely stunned and confused. Lucas struggles to process the king's sudden proposal while the monarch observes his reaction closely.
The king clears his throat, shifting his tone to a more serious and formal demeanor.
A close-up of the king's face reveals he is carefully considering his next words. Lucas looks visibly nervous as he awaits the king's explanation for the unexpected marital offer.
Lucas recalls his humble origins as a commoner knight serving the princess of a powerful kingdom.
The king asks Lucas if the proposal is a favorable opportunity for him to consider.
They shake hands on an alliance meant to develop the Brichez territory and strengthen their kingdoms. Lucas worries if the pampered first princess can endure a simple life in his agrarian territory.
The king notes that Latia seems to have taken a genuine liking to the brown-haired marquis.
Lucas is caught off guard by the suggestion that the cold princess has feelings for him. The king admits this is the first time his daughter has shown interest in any man. Lucas envisions Latia in her usual regal and distant state, surrounded by a soft floral aura. His memory shifts to the rare and radiant smile Latia displayed earlier during their ballroom dance.
Lucas blushes deeply as he questions whether the princess could truly harbor feelings for him.
The two men stand before the royal family portrait, continuing their private discussion about the marriage. Lucas reflects on his own budding thoughts regarding Lady Latia following their brief, intense encounter. He contemplates Latia's complex nature, finding himself fascinated by her despite having only just met. Lucas finds himself unable to stop thinking about the princess's remarkably expressive and ever-changing face.
The memory of Latia's genuine laughter lingers in his mind, softening his initial cold impression.
Lucas adopts a more determined expression as he considers the gravity of the king's marital proposal. The king agrees with Lucas's assessment of the princess, his expression turning warm and fatherly. A close-up of Lucas's eyes shows he is deep in thought about his future with Latia. The focus remains on the royal portrait, emphasizing the weight of the family's expectations and legacy.
Lucas realizes his first impression was right and that the cold rumors about Latia are false.
King Helsa turns back to Lucas, wanting to confirm one final crucial detail regarding his daughter. Past scenes depict socialites looking scandalized at the idea of a woman openly drinking coffee.
The king asks Lucas if he also believes that women drinking coffee is socially improper.
Lucas responds with a look of genuine surprise, questioning the existence of such a restrictive custom. The king reacts with shock to Lucas's lack of prejudice regarding women and their beverage choices. Lucas admits his ignorance of such rigid social rules while looking at the coffee cherry basket. He apologizes for his lack of knowledge but welcomes the princess to enjoy his territory specialties. An unseen observer clenches their fists in excitement as the conversation takes a very positive turn. The king shouts with joy, declaring that Lucas has provided the perfect answer to his question.
Lucas confirms his stance, unaware of the hidden listener who is thrilled by his open-minded response.
Latia suddenly peeks over the edge of the desk, startling both the king and Lucas.
Lucas expresses shock that the princess was under the desk while the king asked if she noticed. Latia glows with pure happiness, confessing her secret and long-standing passion for the coffee industry. The princess stands before Lucas, her simple blue ribbon and elegant dress contrasting with his boots. Lucas asks Latia if she is absolutely certain about her decision to leave her luxury behind.
While Latia celebrates in the background, Lucas wonders if she truly understands the reality of his life.
Lucas warns that he may not be able to provide the extravagant lifestyle the princess currently enjoys. Latia gazes at the basket of coffee cherries, claiming they are more precious to her than jewels.
A close-up focuses on Lucas's formal attire as he prepares to make a final, life-altering commitment.
Latia stands in a field of flowers, her face illuminated with a sense of freedom and joy. Lucas speaks softly, his profile showing a mix of respect and growing affection for the princess. He focuses his gaze on Lady Latia, his thoughts filled with her name and her unique spirit. Surrounded by white roses, Lucas extends his hand to formally accept the princess as his partner. Latia joyfully takes his hand and accepts the proposal with enthusiasm, her eyes sparkling with hope. King Helsa is overcome with emotion, weeping tears of joy at the successful match for his daughter. Lucas takes the princess's hand and softly calls her name as their private meeting concludes. Lucas expresses his anticipation for the future when they can finally drink coffee together. Latia thanks Lord Lucas while surrounded by flowers, her face glowing with genuine happiness. A month later, Latia reflects on Lucas's promise while a maid prepares her golden hair. The maid asks if the princess said something, but Latia quickly insists it was nothing.
Latia looks into the mirror, silently confirming her intense excitement for the path ahead.
She envisions the vast coffee plantations that she will finally visit in this new life. Latia celebrates her future, imagining the perfect coffee beans and tools that await her. Time passes in the rimlet kingdom as the royal palace stands grand against the sky. A white carriage arrives at the cathedral where Lucas waits to begin the wedding ceremony. A delicate blue shoe steps onto the red carpet, signaling the arrival of the bride.
Lucas extends his hand to Latia, dressed in a white suit, announcing that it's finally time.
Latia joyfully takes his hand, her face lit with a smile as she addresses him.
Narration confirms that today, Latia officially assumes her new role as the Marchioness of Brescias. The couple walks down the aisle together as the grand ceremony begins within the cathedral.
Latia's inner child radiates pure joy at the realization that her coffee-filled dream is real.
An off-screen voice calls for Latia as she stands beside her groom during the ceremony.
King Helsa welcomes Lucas, expressing his long-standing desire to meet the hero from far away.
Latia bows her head respectfully while the wedding proceedings continue in the sunlit cathedral. Facing the altar, Latia reflects on how she dedicated herself to strict disciplines for this moment.
The king looks on with a satisfied smile, declaring the union and the ceremony to be splendid.
The king remarks that while Lucas is a powerful warrior, he struggles with noble social customs. The monarch addresses Latia, hoping she will be the support that sustains the kingdom's great hero. Latia looks slightly taken aback as she considers the weight of the king's fatherly expectations.
She realizes the king is right about Lucas's humble nature and lack of social polish.
Latia admits to herself that her initial motivations were centered entirely on her love for coffee. She reflects on how Lucas accepted her true self without being swayed by society's cold rumors. Latia realizes that while the coffee plantation is a bonus, Lucas's sincerity is his true value. The princess looks serene, feeling a deep sense of peace about her decision to marry Lucas.
Latia looks at her new husband, determined to return the kindness he has shown her. The couple stands before the king and priest, holding hands as they finalize their marriage vows.
Latia clenches her bouquet of white roses, her heart filled with new purpose and genuine affection.
Lucas looks at his bride with concern, checking to see if she is feeling okay.
Latia offers a small smile, reassuring him that nothing is wrong as they stand together. Lucas expresses relief while Latia worries that her true feelings are becoming too visible on her face. The couple faces each other at the altar, ready to proceed with the final wedding ritual. Latia agrees to the formal proceedings as Lucas gently reaches forward to lift her bridal veil. The two gaze into each other's eyes, the distance between them closing in a moment of intimacy. Lucas's gaze softens as he focuses entirely on the woman standing before him at the altar.
Lucas leans in and places a tender, respectful kiss on Latia's forehead during the ceremony.
Latia is startled by the gentle gesture, her eyes widening in surprise at his public affection.
Lucas smiles warmly at his bride, addressing her simply and affectionately by her name, Latia.
Latia feels a surge of emotion, realizing that with Lucas, she can truly be herself. The scene shifts to the carriage as the couple nears the border of the Brescias territory. Lucas and Latia look out at their new home together from the window of the carriage. The carriage enters the gates of Brescias to a chorus of cheers from the welcoming citizens. Crowds line the streets to celebrate the arrival of their new Marchioness and her husband. Petals fall through the air as the people of the territory offer a warm welcome. Lucas tells Latia she is now part of their domain and becoming one of their own people. Latia playfully notes that Lucas has reverted to formal titles after calling her by her name. The brown-haired man touches his blushing face, realizing that his comment about formal titles just slipped out. Sitting in the carriage, Latia takes Lucas's hand and notes that they are finally husband and wife. Looking down at their feet, Latia suggests that they should no longer use such stiff, formal words. Lucas looks toward the window and agrees with his wife, addressing her affectionately as Latia. The couple sits together in the carriage, sharing a quiet moment of mutual understanding and warmth. A large wooden travel chest sits ready, representing the start of their new life together.
The grand mansion of the Brescias territory glows brightly against the dark, starry night sky.
Latia gazes out the window, thrilled to be in the land of coffee and eager to visit.
Lucas places a hand on Latia's shoulder, telling her she will see the plantation every day soon.
Lucas stands close behind his wife, looking out at the territory he has worked so hard to cultivate. Startled, Latia asks when he arrived, but Lucas admits he knocked and she simply didn't notice him. Observing her excitement, Lucas promises to take Latia to see the coffee plantation as soon as tomorrow. Latia beams with joy, while Lucas finds it strange that she is no longer nervous about their kiss. Lucas watches his wife with a tender smile, thinking that her enthusiastic reaction is just like her. Noting the evening chill, Lucas suggests that they move further inside to continue their private conversation. Sitting on the sofa, Latia thanks Lucas for the ceremony and mentions she has something to tell him. A basket of coffee cherries appears as Latia admits they were the reason she first approached him. Latia looks down with a soft blush, her expression revealing the depth of her honest feelings. Looking at his wife, Lucas smiles to himself, silently acknowledging that he already knew her original motivation. Remembering their wedding, Latia clarifies that her feelings for him now go far beyond just the coffee. Latia explains that Lucas is always considerate and accepts her exactly as she truly is. Leaning into him, Latia confesses that being able to marry someone like him makes her truly happy.
A close-up of Latia's face captures the tail end of her heartfelt confession to her husband. Exhausted from the long day, Latia suddenly falls fast asleep on the brown-haired man's shoulder. Lucas laughs softly, calling her a pure soul while promising he cannot take his eyes off her. Lucas gently tucks Latia into bed, acknowledging that she must be tired from the day's events.
He watches her sleep with a peaceful expression, softly wishing Latia a good night as she rests.
Lucas reflects on the surprise of her falling asleep so quickly on their very first wedding night.
Latia's face is filled with renewed energy as she focuses on the important task ahead of her.
Lucas waits outside in his territory clothes as Latia calls out to him from the palace entrance.
Bursting through the doors with her maid behind her, Latia apologizes for keeping her husband waiting. Lucas thinks she looks beautiful, while Latia enthusiastically declares that it is finally time for them to go. Lucas reaches out to guide his excited wife toward the carriage waiting to take them away.
The couple walks together across the courtyard, their steps light as they head toward the fields.
Rows of lush coffee plants stretch toward the horizon under a clear and bright morning sky. The sun shines down on the Breshchaz territory, highlighting the beauty of the vast agrarian landscape. Clusters of bright red coffee cherries adorn the edges of the vibrant green leaves in the sun. Latia looks out the carriage window with wonder as they arrive at the heart of the plantation. The carriage arrives at the long-awaited coffee cherry plantation, a dream come true for the new Marquiness. Lucas checks if Latia is tired, but she insists she is fine despite the cool morning air. Surrounded by an aura of happiness, Latia is overwhelmed by the sight of her favorite fruit. Narration explains that coffee thrives in highlands with sharp temperature differences and well-drained, healthy soil. Lucas tells Latia to watch her step on the rough ground as they walk through the field. Lucas points toward a specific area, encouraging Latia to look at the progress of the current crop. Lucas notes it is blooming season, and Latia is amazed by the white flowers among the cherries. Latia explains that coffee trees are rare because flowers, buds, and fruit coexist on the same branch. A diagram illustrates the anatomy of a coffee cherry, identifying the outer skin, pulp, and inner parchment. Text describes the process of removing the outer layers to reveal the valuable bean hidden inside. A pile of processed coffee beans is shown, representing the final product of the territory's hard work. Latia reflects on the wonder of how such a delicious beverage comes from such a small fruit. A glowing thought bubble expresses profound admiration for the wonderful plants in the plantation. The blonde-haired woman clutches her hands to her chest, overwhelmed with joy and excitement. Latia lets out a cry of surprise while the brown-haired man watches her reaction closely. Latia explains that tall trees protect coffee plants from wind and sun while Lucas listens. The brown-haired man smiles warmly, noting his wife's extensive and impressive knowledge about coffee. Latia blushes while explaining that she simply studied many documents to learn about the industry. A glowing thought bubble reveals the woman's sudden internal panic over her near-social blunder. Latia reflects on her past life's identity as a modern barista working in a cafe. Latia realizes she must be careful not to mention her past life memories to avoid suspicion. A man with a mustache runs toward them, greeting the Marquis and asking his purpose. Lucas apologizes for the sudden visit while introducing himself to Bart. The older man stops in his tracks, his face frozen in a state of total shock. Bart stares in disbelief while asking if the woman is truly the Marquis's wife, Latia. The older man breaks into a cold sweat, visibly intimidated by the presence of royalty. Narration expresses fear that Latia offers a serene smile while asking Bart if he is the one in charge. The older man removes his hat and clutches it to his chest in a respectful greeting. A formal declaration confirms the older man's name is Bart and his status as her servant. Latia surprises the older man by suddenly grabbing his hands while a soft sound echoes. Latia enthusiastically vows to do her absolute best as a member of this land starting today. The blonde-haired woman glows with determination, her eyes sparkling with hope for their shared future. Bart remains completely stunned, unable to process the princess's sudden and humble display of passion. Letitia declares it is time to start while Bart looks on with a bewildered expression. In a stylized scene, Latia begins working in the fields. She insists she won't get in the way, but Bart remains very concerned and tries to stop her. Bart approaches the brown-haired man, questioning if it is truly acceptable for his wife to labor. Lucas offers a resigned smile, noting that he cannot stop his wife since she insisted. Lucas decides to join the work, surprising Bart even further with his hands-on approach to farming. Bart watches the noble couple work among the plants, wondering what in the world is happening. The group gathers around an outdoor table to drink coffee while Latia expresses her sudden surprise. A small illustration depicts the blonde-haired woman skillfully sorting red coffee cherries into a basket. Bart praises the lady for her surprising farm skills. Latia blushes, insistently claiming it is nothing special.
Latia enjoys her coffee while Bart prepares to discuss a more serious and pressing business matter.
Bart explains that their current merchant resells the crop, but another buyer wants their remaining stock.
Latia looks serious as she realizes the plantation and the farmers are currently being undercut. Narration explains that coffee farmers in her past life often suffered under harsh, cheap buyout conditions. A cartoon depicts a crying farmer holding a small bag of money under a sign. Diagrams show middlemen taking big money while producers and retailers remain disconnected, allowing for unfair pricing. Latia's expression turns focused and determined as she considers a solution to the business problem. The older man watches her closely, waiting to see how the new marchioness will respond. Latia winks playfully, her face framed by white flowers as she devises a clever new plan. The entire group stares in total shock at Latia's unexpected and bold reaction to the news. Bart asks how exactly they will negotiate, fearing that merchants will stop buying from them entirely.
Latia points upward, declaring that their first priority must be to raise general awareness of coffee.
She reasons that increasing the number of coffee drinkers will naturally lead to more sales.
Latia explains that growing demand will eventually force merchants to compete for the plantation's business.
She concludes that they will set the price once demand peaks, advising everyone to wait patiently. Surrounded by vibrant blue and white roses, Latia beams with confidence about her business strategy.
The marchioness rests her hand on the table, her presence as radiant as the surrounding flowers.
Bart notes that noblewomen rarely drink coffee, his expression reflecting a mix of curiosity and doubt. Latia smiles brightly while explaining that she studied documents specifically to expand her personal knowledge. Latia looks at a coffee branch, claiming she understands the fruit's charm better than anyone. Latia enjoys a fresh cup of coffee amidst the vast, sunlit territory plantations. The workers praise Latia, admiring her genuine love for coffee and calling her their savior. The older man declares that Latia is a saint to them rather than a villainess. Bart and the young workers stare in disbelief at the marchioness's unexpected and humble attitude.
Latia laughs joyfully, surrounded by pink flowers as she enjoys the warm reception from others.
The plantation workers look on with bewildered expressions, still processing the new marchioness's unique behavior.
A man wearing a monocle looks toward the distance with a neutral, observant expression. Saradan notes it is time for supper, prompting a surprised Latia to depart the fields. Bart questions if the marriage is purely for coffee, which Sarastan confirms with blunt honesty. The older man whispers his observations while maintaining a look of surprised realization about the couple. The man with the monocle remains stoic as he continues to monitor the unfolding situation. The workers observe that Lucas appears unusually calm and content while standing beside his wife. Bart tips his hat with a wide, satisfied grin, pleased by the positive atmosphere. Lucas and Latia walk together at sunset, vowing to watch over their territory as partners. Petals drift through a warm, glowing light, signaling a peaceful transition in their new life. Narration explains that Latia manages the household and oversees the estate while Lucas is away. Latia reflects on her need to learn territory management before Lucas interrupts her deep thoughts. Lucas approaches the desk and addresses his wife as Latia, surprising her during her work. Lucas laughs at Letitia's intense focus while a maid confirms his recent return to the mansion. Lucas offers a gentle and warm gaze, clearly pleased to be back home with Latia. Lucas suggests they fulfill their promise to share a cup of coffee together right now. Latia looks up with wide eyes, surprised by the sudden proposal to enjoy her favorite drink. Latia's face lights up with pure excitement as she enthusiastically accepts her husband's suggestion. Latia arrives with a fully equipped coffee cart, apologizing for the delay in her preparations. A sparkling collection of brewing tools and fresh coffee beans sits ready on the table. Lucas asks for confirmation that Latia intends to brew the coffee herself this time. Latia looks slightly nervous yet determined as she prepares to showcase her professional brewing skills. Lucas smiles warmly, expressing his sincere anticipation for the drink his wife is preparing.
Latia beams with happiness, thrilled to share her passion with someone who truly appreciates her.
Latia proudly displays a jar of roasted beans while surrounded by a flourish of flowers. She begins the process by carefully scooping the aromatic beans from the glass container. The roasted coffee beans fall into the grinder, releasing their rich scent into the air. Latia expertly operates a hand crank mill to grind the beans into a fine, consistent powder. She introduces the dripper and paper filter while explaining the basics of the brewing process. A close-up highlights the Nell filter, a cloth alternative used for a specific flavor profile. The Nell filter allows oils to pass through, creating a rich mouthfeel. Narration explains the proper storage for cloth filters while Latia prepares the next brewing step. Latia demonstrates the Nell handle and the correct way to position the sewn side out. She adds the freshly ground coffee and carefully levels the surface using a small stick. Following specific instructions, she moistens the grounds from the center outward to ensure even saturation. Latia stands behind the specialized Nell drip stand, ready to begin the final extraction process. The blooming stage releases carbon dioxide and prepares the beans for flavor. Bubbles rise from the grounds as the coffee blooms, indicating the freshness of the roasted beans.
Latia lists the various flavor notes, such as acidity and sweetness, that define a perfect cup.
She closes her eyes and savors the rich, enticing aroma rising from the brewing coffee. The brewed coffee begins to drip steadily into the ornate pot resting on the stand. Hot water filters through the grounds, extracting the deep colors and complex flavors of the beans.
A steaming cup of dark coffee sits in a refined porcelain cup adorned with a horse.
Lucas lifts the cup, ready to taste the drink Latia has prepared with such care.
Lucas takes his first sip while Latia watches him anxiously, waiting for his honest reaction.